Welcome to Center Ground, your home for unfiltered discussion, where we tackle today's most talked about topics, break down current events, and give our take on the internet's latest foolishness. Tune in and let's find some common ground. Let's get this party started. Welcome back to the Center Ground podcast. I am your host, Bootsy. Here we're doing things a little different today. So I wanted to take a look at a video, a short clip from Kevin Samuels, and talk to you about the ongoing concept, the idea that women love the privileges of being a man or having a leadership position without having the responsibility. And my goal is to break it down to some people so that they have a better understanding rather than this constant belief that it's all rooted in hatred. I don't believe all these things are rooted in hatred, but it's a simple scapegoat. So let's take the time to explain it. And perhaps that will shed some light on what's actually going on. All right, so let's get this started.
That is correct.
Well, then there's a problem. There is a problem. So because we choose to do things out of order and incorrectly, that's
Right.
a woman's choice.
That is true. That is correct.
Well, then if it turns out good, she gets the credit. But if it turns out poorly, she gets the credit as well.
Well, why would she get the credit if it turns out poorly?
Because excuse me?
All right, so just taking a quick look at the video, I'll do some quick chopping it up just to give a few quick points, but then I'll give, I think, about 5 major points to give you the understanding of why men feel this way about the modern women and perhaps what we can do to make some changes. Of course, accountability is usually the answer, but we'll do a deeper dive.
That is correct.
Well, then there's a problem. There is a problem. So because we choose to do things out of order and incorrectly.
And I want to start off here. So I brought this up in one of my last videos. Ayanna Van Zandt makes this point a lot where she says things are out of order. I expressed that this is usually an old Southern and sometimes church lingo where we speak about doing things in the wrong order or doing things improperly. And I brought it up in one of my previous videos stating that, yes, we do things out of order, which is why so many of us do not have successful relationships. So RIP to the GOAT, this is what he was talking about. We don't do things properly, but we want positive results. He then leans into the responsibilities of the relationship, but I'll let it play real quick.
That's
Right.
a woman's choice.
That is true. That is correct.
Well, then if it turns out good, she gets the credit. But if it turns out poorly, she gets the credit as well.
And that's an important distinction, right? When you're in a leadership position, it doesn't matter who you are, what you believe. When you're at the top, when you're the one in charge, your decisions hold weight, right? I own businesses. The decisions I make don't just affect me and my family. It affects everybody else around me. It affects the people that work for me. It affects the suppliers that use me or leverage me to buy their things. It even affects some of my clients, because if I make a mistake, it harms the client. So and this is why, as you grow up, as you mature, you don't get involved in certain things, because if you make poor choices, poor mistakes, it hurts not just you, not just your family, but it hurts literally a community of people. This is something that a lot of women don't understand. And this woman in this video is a perfect example of this, because she said to him, she agreed up until this point, which is saying something. She actually knew and understood what he was talking about. But it wasn't until he started to say that you are accountable whether you win and or lose, that's when he started to lose her. But I'll let it continue real quick, and then I'll get into the 5 points.
Well, why would she get the credit if it turns out poorly?
Because
Right there. That just tells you she just wants the credit when things go well, which is the crux of the argument, that a lot of women want the responsibility. I mean, they want the privilege that comes with leadership, that comes with being the man, that comes with being at the top, but they don't want the responsibility. She herself admitted, she said, why would the woman get the bad? She didn't have an issue with the good, just the bad.
Excuse me?
That is
And
Excuse
his
me? Oh,
reaction, his reaction is top tier. Because when you first hear it, it's like, wait, what? But like, just watch it again.
if she, why would you, oh, excuse me?
that is correct.
So, and I think his reaction just shows how men view it, right? You can't want all of the glory and none of the failures. That's the problem with so many people in leadership positions, not just women, but men as well. Weak minded men in high positions do this as well. When they win, it's them. It's all me. I'm self made. I did it. The minute something bad happens, they start pointing the fingers, shifting blame. You should have did this, blah, 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 blah. But just to get into the points, the core argument when you hear men say that women want the privilege but not the responsibility is due to the argument called selective traditionalism. I have the issue in society where people like to pick and choose when and where they do things, especially when it's convenient, right? But that's literally the crux of the argument. It suggests that in the modern dating market, there is a desire to hold up traditional expectations only when it benefits one side, the women. And here's the grievance. So men often feel that they're expected to adhere to a traditional masculine role or standard. They're expected to pay for the dates. They're expected to initiate courtship. That means you got to talk to them, even though some of them claim they don't want men to approach them. They want the man to be the primary earner and to protect the family physically. You notice it's usually not protection mentally, emotionally. It's just physical. They want someone who's over 6 feet to fight. People like short people don't have advantages in fights, but this is how you know they don't understand violence. Now, while the women they that don't want to be dated, that want to be courted, they believe they should adhere to traditional, well, modern feminist standards. They they don't feel like they have to do what women of old did. They feel like they don't have to cook. They don't have to clean. They don't have to do whatever they don't want to do. They can prioritize their career over their family, and no one can say anything about it. They could even demand complete and full autonomy, even though no one should have full and complete autonomy when they're in a relationship. Now, people tend to leverage the buffet analogy. So they have like people who have researched this and they looked at some of these things and they describe this as treating gender roles like a buffet in which you pick what you like, the tasty parts, the things that are great. Chivalry, for example. Some women love having their doors open for them, love being taken care of, love men doing certain things for them, while also partaking in modernism and being independent when it's convenient, but also wanting you to take them out on vacations, even though they make their own money, or pay their bills, even though they make their own money, things like that. And then when you look at since we're using a meal analogy, they then look at the meat, the vegetables, the things that people tend to not care about. So they hate that part. And when you look at that, you look at like domestic submission or even having burdens of finance within the relationship, the things that require the relationships to come together, the things that are healthy for the relationships. Those are the things that they tend to ignore. Moving on, we can look at you got to deconstruct responsibility, right? To understand the validity and the flaws, we must first understand what responsibility means in this context. The phrase usually refers to these three typical male burdens. Performance burden, the societal demand that a man's worth is tied to what he can provide, whether that be resources, his status, or his security. Back to that physical protection thing. If a man loses his job, or if his social value plummets, he's not famous anymore, no one cares, he's irrelevant, or the argument that a woman's social value is inherent rather than performance based. Like, so one of the issues is the man tends to have to do things to get his performance, to partake, to show his worth, I should say. Women tend to not have to do that. They just have to show up. They just have to be pretty. They just have to be bad, have to be a 10, have to be a baddie, have to have a physical body. This is why so many, like Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, who's this other one? Summer Walker, they take shortcuts. This is why they get surgeries, injections, trim the noses, all this other stuff. Those are all shortcuts, right? They can pay to play, as opposed to men who have to earn money to even consider paying for anything. So that's a burden. That's the performance burden. Now you got to look at accountability and risk, right? A prominent point is the fact that men still make up a vast majority of workplace fatalities, overall life fatalities, homelessness, combat, endings, people who go to war and don't make it back. The argument that women have entered the boardroom but not the coal mine or the front lines goes to show that equality seems to only matters when it benefits them. And this is why you'll often hear people bring up, like, they don't do hard labor jobs, but they want to all be CEOs. And it's a valid argument because that's what they say. If you listen to them, they want cushy jobs. They want air conditioned jobs. They don't want to do the hard labor jobs. And they love to blame the patriarchy for not getting into certain fields. But even when they have opportunities to get in those fields, they still shy away from them. So again, that's the accountability and risk. They tend to avoid those two things. They don't do the hard stuff. They just want the benefits of someone else doing the hard stuff, and then they can take credit for the hard stuff. Now, this doesn't apply to everyone. However, it is what it is. This is the arguments that are being made. And then it's the safety net disparity. And I kind of alluded that before with the homelessness population, but we still have a mentality of you save the women and children first. That has never changed, while men are told to figure it out. So you can get a better job than I because you work in a corporate environment while I work with my hands and think that you're better than me, but still somehow expect me to come to the table with more money, to protect you, to do all these things that you no longer want to do, cook, clean, nurture the kids, do any of those other things, because someone still has to do it. And there's also the argument that it can be outsourced, which is also problematic, but that's neither here nor there. But there's social safety nets that men don't have that women get so easily. For example, if a man and a woman break up, the chances of the court siding with the woman is very high. The chances of the court handing the kids over to the woman, very high. The chances of that lady being homeless while having possession of the children, very low. Men, on the other hand, they don't have those benefits. So now let's talk about the counter dynamic, the second shift. Now, from a research perspective, it is inaccurate to say that women have zero responsibility. That's not true. However, the type of responsibility has shifted in ways that are often invisible to men, just as men burdens are often invisible to women. The double burden. While men focus on the financial protection gap, sociological data points to the second shift, where women often work full-time jobs, but still carry the majority of the cognitive load for house load management and child rearing, which is considered a traditional role. So there is a duality here, and you got to point out all points rather than just what you like to hear or what I like to say tickling your ears. But there's also the having it all trap that so many women fall for. Women face intense pressure to be high-powered executives and nurturing mothers simultaneously. We can argue about where that pressure comes from, often from themselves and other women, but that pressure is there. While they may not have that specific provider burden that men have, they do face something of a burden, even if it's self-inflicted. And I think because it's mostly self-inflicted, this is why people tend to ignore it. But the fourth point is the friction of the traditional era. We are currently living in a messy kind of middle period, interim period between the two social scripts. The causes of frustration are captured by the phrase. So this is why we have the phrase women want the credit, not the responsibility. So role incongruence. What this is we have raised a generation of women to be girl bosses. We have taught them to be independent, assertive, and even in some cases just mean and disrespectful. While we have also taught a generation of men to do the exact opposite while still being a provider. This does not work. We also have what's called the hypergamy conflict. Evolutionary psychology suggests that women are often attracted to men of equal or higher socioeconomic status. I don't think we needed research to figure out that this is true because women chase after men who make more money and who are more famous. Chris Brown doesn't have an issue with women, even though he has a history of abusing women and drug abuse. That's not to knock him. You can see that the man has taken strides to make his life better. That's kudos to the man. But the point is, women don't seem to mind his shortcomings simply because of who he is, his talent, and how much money he has. Because of this, the argument gets thrown out of the window when it comes to the relationships and the roles that men and women have, because women have still overwhelmingly craved the exact same things they've always craved. And then you also have to look how it translates into dating. Now we're at the point of transactional dating. What exactly can you do for me? Not what can I do for you or what we can build together. This is why relationships continue to fail, because people aren't doing it right and they're out of order, just like Mr. Samuels mentioned earlier. This leads to a dynamic where men feel their resources are being extracted without the traditional return on investments, ROI. That's something I mentioned in my last video. They don't get loyalty, domestic support, respect, or authority. Like the previous generations, they get discontent, disrespect, and a lot of times arrogant, boastful, what some people call masculine. I don't call that masculine. I just call that disrespectful women. And then finally, let's look at the last one, the privilege blindness. Now, there's privilege blindness on both sides. The phrase women want to benefit, the benefits of being a man without the responsibility, is a reaction to a perceived asymmetric gender evolution. Men see it as they have lost authority. So men aren't as big as the head of household as previous generations. But they still have to hold the responsibility that men of the past had. They're still expected to fix everything. They're still expected to build. They're still expected to protect. They're still expected to make the money. They're still expected to make the strong, important decisions. And when they're not expected to make those decisions, let's say they make a mistake or they let their woman make the mistake, they still get the blame for it. This is very common. Now, women see it differently. They see that they have gained economic responsibility, but they haven't been relieved of their domestic expectation or the threat of physical safety issues men really face. And that's a perception problem. It's not a reality problem because most women put themselves in that predicament. So this is why, although I understand it's a blindness and it's perceived privilege blindness, but women tend to believe things that may or may not be true and oftentimes is not true. Right? Men aren't forcing women into the workplace. Women are forcing themselves into the workplace. Hell, you could even argue that society and the cost of everything is forcing them into the workplace. But most men would rather struggle and have two jobs and have the wife at home as opposed to having a wife in the workplace, but yet women still want to work. So even if women feel stress from that, you can't put that on the men. That's not how this works. You can't make choices as adults and then complain about the results and then shift blame to someone who didn't make those choices for you. This is exactly why men don't like single mothers anymore, because single women love having babies with losers and then trying to pawn those children and responsibilities off the next guy that they connect themselves with. And then their expectations just keep growing and growing by expecting that man to come in with more than they had for the first guy who had nothing. And even the threat of physical safety. Although women tend to believe that men don't face physical threats as much, this is a false ideology. Men face physical threats more. Men are more likely to get ended, more likely to be harmed. So even as women believe that they are under physical threat, the chances of them actually being under that is slim to none. And oftentimes, again, it's self-inflicted, right? You've ever seen where young women go outside, get drunk, are half naked at a very sketchy area at a place like a club or a bar? That's putting yourself in danger. Men don't typically do that. And if they do it, they understand that they are putting themselves in danger. It's not that the world is just dangerous and everybody needs to bend because they feel scared. So we can also talk about the mental load versus the physical burden. I'm going to save that for another day, but I wanted to explain just the concept of the argument of women want the privilege and the benefits, but none of the responsibility. I hope you learned something. If you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. Let me know if you have any ideas or any other concepts and things I can talk about. Maybe I'll do deeper dives into some of the phrases or arguments that you've heard. Just let me know. Like and subscribe. Hit me up on email with your ideas. I'll holla at y'all soon. Thanks for listening to the Center Ground Podcast. We'll be back soon with some more great content. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on the video. We are a new channel, and growth is essentially our main objective. So send us an email at centerground.pod@gmail.com with any ideas or clips you would like for us to review. This was definitely fun, and I'd say let's do it again. But before you go, always remember, greatness lives somewhere within you. Just make sure you're taking the time to find the key to unlock that greatness. Until we meet again, I'll see you soon.